must understand that Jesus Christ poured out his wealth for you and me. So now when you know that Jesus has poured out his wealth for you and me, now you don't have to worry about money, because the cross proves that God cares for you and will give you security beyond your wildest imagination. Now you don't have to be jealous about anybody else's money, because the love of Jesus and the salvation you have confers a remarkable status upon you, one that money cannot give, which basically means it does not matter how much money I have or don't have, money cannot be responsible for getting me into the kingdom of heaven. And I don't know about anybody else, but I am happy as a proud peacock that I am not a child of God based upon how much money I have or how much money I don't have. How many of y'all know that money cannot save you from tragedy or give you control over a world has gone crazy? Only God can do that. Can I press my claim a little bit further? When you look at the final section of Philippians, it's really addressing finances. And in the church, y'all don't want your preacher to talk about money, but I'm going to talk about it anyhow, because a lot of y'all need to be liberated from the hold that money has on your existential reality, so you can start acting like you got some sense and start being scared every time scarcity comes up. Paul is thanking the church at Philippi for remembering him and his needs as they had done before. In fact, when you read the passage closely, you can be enlightened by how Paul informs the Philippian church that he has the capacity to remain cool, calm, and collected in a situation for him that was personally hazardous, hellish, and hideous. You must understand that Paul is writing this letter not while he's chilling out on a beach in Barbados or Bermuda or the Bahamas, but Paul is writing this letter from a prison cell while he's awaiting his trial and pending execution. But he takes time to say thank you to a little church in Macedonia that has been good to him. Part of the problem with a lot of us in today's society is we don't know how to thank folks whenever they do something good for us. Paul was appreciative to the kindness of a little church that was small, struggling, and poor, but they understood the expression of generosity because they had experienced the grace and mercy of God through Jesus Christ. Understand that the church at Philippi wasn't some mega church that had 20 or 30,000 members. It was probably a house church that had less than 50 members, but they did what they could for the sake of the gospel. You got to remember where Paul is as far as the context of the text, because Paul is writing to tell them thank you even though his life is hanging in the balance. And then he starts saying some stuff that seems rather stoic, like he really doesn't care about what's going to happen to him. Now you must understand what a stoic is. S-T-O-I-C. A stoic is a person who does not let his emotions get the best of him. A stoic seems like an emotionless creature devoid of feelings about the facts of life. In other words, a stoic feels what comes, what may, I will survive. So when Paul says, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content, it may seem like he's lackadaisical or even lethargic about what's going on in his life. But when you read the passage more closely, you will understand that Paul found a peace that surpasses all understanding. That's why he starts off this section to the Philippian church by saying, I rejoice, or I am happy in the Lord greatly, because you have shown great concern for me. Isn't it remarkable to be happy because a church with meager resources is able to sow into the kingdom of God? Can't you shout over the fact that you ain't got to be a big church in order to do major ministry for the kingdom of God? Can I bless somebody real good? And they do it, y'all, cheerfully. When you read in 1 Corinthians chapter 8 verses 1 through 5, when Paul is talking about for God loveth a cheerful giver, he ain't talking about the church at Corinth. He's talking about the church at Philippi, because it's the church at Philippi that had no problem giving. And the problem in a lot of churches today is that when it comes time for the offering or for sacrificial giving, a lot of us look at it as if the preachers or the deacons are begging you all to give to the Lord. In fact, some people consider it to be outside the realm of worship, when really giving is a major part of worship. And therefore, you can't authentically worship God if you're not willing to give something to God.